Hello, everybody. Welcome to our executive leadership series. I'm Jaidin McCann, CEO of Jasper Consultancy, and I am here with Mark Coscarello. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey Jaden, how's it going? Good to see you again.
Great to see you. Mark, I'm so excited to talk to you today. For those of you who don't know Mark, you should. He is one of those human capital professionals, human capital strategists that just really get it. And it's always so refreshing to chat with you because we understand the importance of investing in people and optimizing our human capital to get
Yeah,
where we need to be and to drive success. So I'm super excited to have you today and to dive
thank
into,
you.
yes, and to dive into trust, right?
Yeah,
Typically, when we talk about building trust, we talk about it at the leadership and director, like managerial level. And we hear a lot about building trust in your teams, right? Being transparent and an authentic leader. It's all about how
right,
to get your teams to have trust in you as a leader.
right.
Yeah. But when we think about it at the owner, founder, CEO, or just executive level, right, we rarely hear about how do we trust in our teams and how
Right.
do we build that trust so that we can trust our teams to deliver? And that's so vital so that the
Critical.
critical, yeah. So these executives and founders can step out of the business, right? Not run the whole show themselves. So
Yep.
would love to hear from you, you being the resident expert in helping founders and executive level leaders really be able to trust their teams and step away.
Yeah, that's a great segue, Jaden, of what I've seen in the business just over the past 3, 4 years. The labor market has changed. There's a lot of people that are doing their own remote work. They're doing their own brick and mortar work. They're entrepreneurs. They're their own startups. They have a team of people that they've gathered together. How do you start out with trusting people to relinquish some of the control that you have as a founder, as an entrepreneur, in order for them to do what you want them to do and step up to the plate? It's really an interesting thought to see you give that room for someone to grow into that space. You'll never know their potential unless you give them that room to grow into that space either. Uh, and a lot of folks, it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. These are calculated mistakes. One of the things that I love doing was, and still is, partnering with an S&OP team to go over operations and process and strategy, and also to go over data insights and financials with an F&A process, right? An F&OP process. So the financial planning and analysis, FP&A. To do that, you have to trust the process. You have to trust where you're going. You have to trust people to get there. And then you can't do it all. Something that I'm still learning, unfortunately, is to let go of the control. I think all of us as entrepreneurs or startup leaders or executives are going, okay, I need to give up some of that. I need to trust other people to enable them and empower them. That's how you empower other people to make decisions. And when you empower other people to make decisions, they own it. That sense of responsibility, it's still on you, but it's also on them. It's also a shared collaboration. And when you think about shared collaborations, you think about that cohesive flow that comes together on a team. In team sports, we do this all the time. You have your position, and I have my position. I'm a huge hockey fan. I play hockey. I coach my son's team. When you look at the positions on the hockey, on the ice, on the rink, you need a center to do the 200-foot center positioning, what a center does. They go forward, and then they also come back. They are the third defensive man in that set. And then the wingers have to stay in their positions because when the center gets the puck, they want to break out and pass it to the wingers. If the wingers aren't there, the other team's defense is there to intercept that puck. And you don't want that to happen. So, very similar, you have to trust that you're in your position and you have to give over some of that accountability and empower those people to be in that space. That's what I love about that learning journey. It's really cool to trust other people to see what you can do as a team and actually increase your profits and your revenues double, triple by empowering other people to do what you trust them to do.
I love that. And I want to dive into, right, how do you trust, right? How do you get there? But I
Yeah.
also, I'll switch to the talent acquisition side since I know we both do human capital. I'll let you own human capital. Uh,
Yep.
but I see it affects everything, right? I think in talent acquisition, when we do executive searches, they say, hey, we need someone who does exactly this. They've done exactly this for 20 plus years. It has to be this industry, exactly this role, this size and scope, right? This revenue amount, whatever it might be. And I sit there and I'm like, no, you don't. But there's a disconnect, right? Because they want that trust. Because if they have done this for 20 plus years, you can trust them. But at the same time, they're going to come in, there's no challenge there, right? They know this so well, it's
Right.
boring for them. There's no room for growth. People need that room for growth and that challenge to feel like they have that sense of purpose, that they're engaged, right? Retained, everything tied
Yep.
into it. And so, I work a lot with leaders on the talent side, consulting side of, okay, how do we not find the exact person who's done this forever because they're not going to stay, they're not going to feel like they're growing, but how
Right.
do we set up an interview process so that you can trust them when they come in, right? And then, of
Yep.
course, after that's set up, we go into the human capital side of the house and say, okay, now how do we empower them and how do we allow them to prove to you, I guess, that you can trust them. If you hire them, you should already have that automatic trust, but that's not always the case. And so
Yeah.
I'd love to dive in and get your expert insights on, as an executive leader, how do you grow to trust your team and their ability to deliver so you can step out?
Yeah. I always say that trust is earned and it's also given. So when I look at that, it's vulnerability and it's being real with your folks on your team, with people that you partner with cross functionally every day. But even more importantly, I think that you always have those inner circle of people that are on your team that you entrust and you empower to do what you expect them to do. A lot of it is setting clear expectations. From the beginning, set clear expectations. I'm a huge data and insights person. This data, this amount of insights, this amount of knowledge is going to produce efforts and activity, and then it's going to produce either revenues or it's going to produce other attitudes. And the two things that I love that I've recently been saying a lot of, you can control your attitudes and you can control your efforts. And that's what you can influence your team with is a great positive attitude and looking at the data and the insights to get you where you want to get to in 3, 6, 9 months, right? When we look at sales cycles, when we look at operations, we look at communications, we look at marketing, we have to look at those informational insights and we have to trust those folks that they've looked at the data, they've done the research, they've done history, we're looking at FP&A, we're looking at our operations and our procedures, and we're trusting our teams to get them done, whether they're our own teams or they're collaborative teams that we're working and partnering with to get that task accomplished. It's being vulnerable with them, but it's clearly setting those expectations, and then it's the dialogue, the feedback, right? I see a lot of hippo, which highest paid person predicts the outcomes, right? And I've heard that probably about 6, 7 years ago, and I've been using it ever since. We don't need hippo in business. We need collaboration. When I say to a team, hey, take it talent acquisition. My background is in TA, right? Before I got into human capital and all things employee relations and or employee experience. TA, we want you to hire 80 people over the next 2 months. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, how are we going to do that? Right? That is probably not a realistic expectation for one person, right? If we had a team of maybe 10 people and then you say, great, let's break it down and you hire 8 people per month, perfect, let's do it. That's more realistic. And then you dive into the people in the right places, the process, and then you look at the technology to make sure that you have the right technology to back it up. But it's being that person who can take the dialogue as a leader and saying, hey, you know what, Mark, I really don't know if we're going to do this. Help me understand how we could see this. And I've had Matt on my team go, Mark, is this possible? Right. I've also had Jaidin on my team, not you, Jaidin, but another Jaidin, say, how is this possible? Can we do this? And I'm like, absolutely. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the people who are involved. Let's look at our process and look at our technology that's either AI driven or automation to get us to where we need to get to. But I think it's setting those clear expectations, going back to that, what that looks like, and then empowering those people with that trust factor.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So sorry. I attended a class by Clay Christensen at Harvard back in the day, and we talked about, it was totally about business strategy, not at all necessarily about this, but it's so relevant, and I can't help but think about it, is setting clear belief and boundary systems, right? What do we believe in? What's our mission, our vision, our values? What are we here to accomplish? Are we aligned? Because if you can trust your team is aligned, they're going to be able to make decisions and prioritize their time headed in the right direction. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you need those boundary systems, right? What business are we not going after? What are we not going to do to achieve our goals? We
Right.
don't want a Wells Fargo incident again, right? We need those boundary systems. We need to ethically be able to hit those goals.
Yep.
And so having both simultaneously, and then of course adding in the metrics, right? And the systems to actually hit those goals, working it backwards, like you mentioned, right? And I think all of those things really come together. And when they're working and you know that your team believes in what you believe in, are moving toward the same goal, knows what not to do, and has those clear expectations of what those goals are and how to hit them, then at the end of the day, as long as you know that they can pivot, right? And you can also be like, okay, watching that market as the executive leader, knowing when we need to pivot, knowing what pivoting looks like. But they watch you do that, right? They watch you.
Yeah.
And if you're teaching them being transparent and open and honest, and they can see you making those shifts and you're explaining the why, I think, behind everything is so
Yep.
vital, then they learn
Yep.
that. And once they have all of those, like you're able to really step back and say, okay, my team can do this.
Yeah, yep. And I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I know you're aware of this. I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek and starting with why and knowing what that is. And that is translated back to your purpose, right? So go and dive into the purpose, but also it's communicating that purpose efficiently and effectively throughout the channels with your own team. And you tapped into it before. It's understanding your mission, understanding your vision, having your core competencies that you have and your beliefs as a company attached to those mission and vision values, and rolling them out throughout your team. When I was at startup that I was at in 21 and 2022, we had those mission and vision and also those core competencies woven throughout every meeting that we had. We started off with a boost. We said, here, what's our boost for the day? Give me a good word. We started it off, and it was open communication, whether it was positive or whether it was a negative piece that someone said, hey, I'm struggling today. That's the authenticity that we wanted them to come to the table with and say, hey, how can we rally around you? We still have the same mission, but we're a team, right? Let's be transparent. Let's be open. So if we as leaders embrace that type of authenticity, and that empowers our teams to go, hey, listen, I can be real, and I struggle with, I have some things going on with family today. I have a sick parent that I'm tending to. I've got doctors calling me. Like, that's life. That's what everybody deals with. That's trust, for someone on your team to go, I have some things that I'm dealing with. I'm like, go take your time. Make sure that we have some coverage. We'll talk to the other team members and communicate effectively, and we'll get it covered for you. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Go do what you need to do. That's how you build retention. And that's how you increase revenues and profits, because you built that retention, you built that trust factor within your own teams.
Yes, business is a team sport. It
It
absolutely
is.
is, and I think you can tell when you meet the executives that say, "Hey, it's my sport, right? It's an individual sport. Everyone else is here helping me get more successful, make more money." And then
Yep.
you can tell the CEOs that have more of that player coach in them. They say, "No, this is a team sport. We work together. My
Right.
role as a coach is to help develop and support them in reaching their goals, right? The coach doesn't win
Yeah.
the trophy." The team
No.
wins the trophy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only a few sports that are single player, ready player one type of sports, and all the other ones are team sports. And it's not like a pair or a duo, right? Tennis, there might be doubles, but there's singles. That's one of them. Golf, there's single, you play against your challenge yourself, but then there's foursomes that go out, right? I mean, those are a few of the sports, but all the other ones, they're team sports. And it's like, hey, we rally the troops to get in here. We have a mission, we have a vision. You touched upon it before. What is your employee value proposition? What is that for everybody? Let's create a strong employee value proposition around our mission, around our vision, and built upon our core competencies. And that shouldn't change throughout that course of events. There might be peaks, there might be valleys, but as you move, you continue to partner and collaborate with teams and build those teams with trust, with vulnerability. You're going to win all the time. You're going to win in relationships, and an outcome of that is profits, revenues, ARR, your customers. How are you being customer centric? How are your customers trusting you? That's the other part of this trust. How are your customers viewing you as a service or a product to trust what you're offering them? If they don't, people can see through that stuff if you're not transparent. They really can. So that's the other angle of this. How are you making that money and those revenues built upon trust from your customer base? That's another topic which you can discuss later on, maybe.
We can. I actually have so many thoughts on that topic. My brain just went like this, but I know it's for another time. We'll have you back. But one thing I did want to talk about that you were referencing right before that is, and maybe for those who want to see just little ways that this happens in action, is an example I do with my company is I send the mission, vision, and value statement before they sign their offer letter, right? And I say, hey, review this, right? I don't want you to come in and then be like, oh
Right,
shoot, we're not aligned. I want you to know
right,
this is what you're coming into. If you believe these things, if this is the mission you want to be a part of, these are the values that you value as well, then sign the offer letter and come in, right? That gives me
yeah,
trust in the belief systems. I also, a really big one that I love to do is just be very transparent in my strategies, right? If you see our mission, vision, values, or a go-to-market sales strategy, and I say, hey, this is where we are targeting for our sales, right? These are the locations we're targeting. This
right,
is why. This is where we're not targeting. This is why, right? I'm very big on the why because if they don't understand why and they just follow, how are they going to effectively lead others, right? How are they going to go to train
yeah,
others when others ask why and need that why? They don't know, right? They're the
yeah,
sheep, right? They're being herded. They're like, I don't know. That's the way we do it. That's what we do. I don't
yeah,
want that. I want you to
yeah,
know why is it that we're not going after this specific market and what happens if that why changes, right?
yeah,
If we're not going after a certain market because I don't know, let's say something political, but the political scenario changes. Someone can now come to me instead of me having to watch it, or an executive leader of mine can now make that executive decision and say, hey, we're now going to go after this market because that has shifted. And they now know, but they wouldn't have known if they didn't know why. So I definitely,
right,
in all my documentation and when I onboard, I say, hey, review this. If you don't see a why or you don't understand the why, ask me and
yeah,
I'll explain it.
right, yeah. That's the trust factor that people should have in any executive leader is to just ask questions, right? They shouldn't be bashful or sheepish to kind of speak up and not ask them and hold on. There is no silly question ever. There's always a right answer for it. There's always a dialogue that happens. That's how you get to know people and you understand their why. To your point, why are we not going after that market? In an SMB world, go to market strategies happen and they change all the time, right? So maybe we need to go after that market. Oh, maybe something happened that I'm not aware of. Please fill me in. Bring me that knowledge. Where's the data? Where's the insights? What did you hear? I want to hear it. Let's go. Open dialogue.
Yes. And as a leader, I think you need to accept, right? And know, and another part of the trust, right, is if you hire people in their area of expertise, right? I'm a human capital strategist, right? I know talent acquisition, I know executive search. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at business development, marketing. It's just not what I've done my entire career.
Right.
It's not what I
Yeah.
know. So what do? You hire those people in and you should trust that they know better than you do in that area. And
Right.
It's really funny actually. I trust my sales guy so much that when he comes to me with questions, I'm like, I don't know, that's why I hired you. And that
Right,
makes me
exactly.
incompetent, but also I'm not a salesperson. If it's
Right.
a strategy, right, why we're not going after a certain market, totally fine. I'll be like, oh, this is why. But now I trust him when he gives me feedback and says, actually, I think we should be going after that market. And you
Yeah.
can have that conversation and being open, honest, and having that trust, they can change your mind and they can grow your business better than you could have.
Yeah, right. I mean that's one of the things that we've spoke about previously. It's getting executives to work on the business and not work in the business, right? There's a clear delineation between working in the business, and I'll give you an example, Jaden, real quick here. There's a $20 million logistics and supply chain business that one of my friends, who's a fellow fractional, he's a chief operating officer, called me about. I was like, Mark, I have a client for us to go to. And I'm like, perfect, let's see. Well, they both, there's two partners. They have $20 million, 25 employees, and they are working in the business, grinding, and they have a lot of business coming in. They don't know what to do with it. And I said, these are exactly the types of clients that I love to work with if they have the right growth mindset to trust me and to trust Dominic as an operating officer to come in and do the fractional work to set up their strategy, their organizational design. Who do they need right now to get them out of the business and get them working on growing the business, not doing the day to day? They're way above what they're currently at doing the day to day. They should be doing strategy towards growth and then honing in on some other things that they need to focus on, not doing the regular books, not running some of the pay, like some of those other things can be taken off their plates now. It's time at $20 million and 25 employees with more business coming in that they know what to do with.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, maybe send them this video. Uh,
Yeah,
but it's been such a pleasure, Mark. Thank you so much. It's so refreshing to just casually chat with people who really truly understand and get it and
thank
want
you.
to see everyone succeed. And that includes the
Yeah,
executive level leaders who I feel like sometimes feel like they're drowning, right? They're like, I can't handle it all. And they're right, you can't. So give some of
right.
it up. I promise
Yeah,
it'll be okay.
trust somebody else.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Mark, thank you so much. It has been such an honor chatting with you.
Thank you, Jaden. Appreciate your time. Always a pleasure.